Veterans That Rock.
Thank you for being a friend.
Hi, welcome. I am Sailor Scott, and this is Veterans That Rock, our fourth episode featuring a very special guest. Her name is Bernice Frankel, or as you might know her, as Bea Arthur.
In that cause, is there something that happened to you in your life, something you saw in your life that
No. I'm a child of the Depression, but it was nothing. It's nothing like living out on the streets. No, but I've always been attracted to what I feel is not right, and I feel that is definitely not right. And I also must say that it's not just a matter of volunteerism. I think, particularly in this day and age, with the need for money spent on defense sort of not quite so necessary, I think we should all write to our congressman and say, hey, let's do something. Volunteerism is fine, but let's also have the government spend a little money on it.
Yeah. We'll be right back with Bea Arthur.
Bea Arthur, and I primarily know Bea Arthur as Dorothy from Golden Girls. How about you, Zach?
Hi, I'm Zach Rabbit, and as always, Sailor Scott. So glad to be on here talking about such an amazing individual as Bea Arthur today. Golden Girls for me as well, but I've also seen her in her earlier show, Maude, as
Mm.
well. I sent you a clip we'll probably see a little bit later of Family Guy, how I was introduced to the work of Bea Arthur. But wow, as I was going through this episode, man, I gotta say, just what an incredible human being. And I think that that clip really kind of shows in general who, at least to me, the person that she was. And a lot of people don't know this. The reason she's on the show today is because she's a veteran.
Yeah, she's a veteran. Zach and I are both veterans, and we're both musicians. Bea Arthur was a United States Marine Corps staff sergeant when she got out. And she is also one of our first guests who is not a musician. She's an artist. We feature artists on our show that are veterans, and we're really excited to have her on today. And what a great human being and person she is overall.
Before we really get started, make sure you hit the like, the subscribe, maybe comment down below if you know a veteran that has a project or something that we should be talking about, or maybe other people would love to learn about. This is a channel for all of us. So, as we grow, it grows. So thanks for being a part of it. And why don't we get started on who Bea Arthur is?
Yeah, Bea Arthur.
So Bernice Frankel was the birth name of who we know to be as Bea Arthur. She was born on May 13th, 1922 in Brooklyn, New York City. Would you happen to know anything about Brooklyn, New York City, Scott, by any chance?
I've been to Brooklyn quite a few times. Yeah.
A couple times. One of the interesting tidbits that we'll get into a little bit later is that at the end of her life, which was April 29th, 2009, the day after my birthday, actually, I was born April 28th. She donated $300,000 to the Ali Forney charity organization that helps feed and clothe homeless LGBT um, teenagers and youths. You say that you'd kind of been around that area, or like there's a building I think in Brooklyn that they actually built like an 18-room building for the same organization.
Yeah, I believe they did build a building.
Yeah, it looks like the Ali Forner Center and the Cooper Square Committee received a $3.3 million grant from the New York City Council. Big for New York. I'm sure you know it's hard to get anything done out there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need some clout like a person like Bea Arthur to come in and advocate for people.
But she did. I see that to the tune of the $3.3 million grant for an 18-room building for homeless LGBTQ people. As you said, we were just talking before the show started. Like you've ridden by it. It sounds like it's a pretty substantial building, and uh, I think one of the things that we'll really hit on here today is that she was a person who her whole life was just kind of a champion for those in need, and it all started on May 12th, 1922.
Yeah, she was born in Brooklyn, then she ended up in Maryland. Her parents moved to Maryland, I believe, where she spent some time there through like high school years.
Yeah, interesting fact too is so her parents uh I know her mother's name was Rebecca. She was from Austria and they emigrated to the United States in 1922, so the same year that she was born. They were also a Jewish family, which is kind of interesting because if anyone, who knows history, 1922 was kind of a golden age for the country at the time after World War One, which obviously primarily took place in Europe. But uh, Interestingly enough, that also makes her a child of the Depression, which she had mentioned in that uh, interview at the beginning of our show. I find it very interesting that she doesn't really talk a whole lot about that time in her life. Did you find anything, Sailor Scott,
I did not find out anything of her actually talking about her military service.
or anything to do with like her time and like as she grew up in the Great Depression or the looming shadow of World War Two?
Um, no.
Where she moved to Lidditz at 16, and that's what led her into going to school at Blackstone before she joined the military. Because she went to Blackstone College for Girls until 1943. So 16, she got coagula coagulopathy. She got diagnosed with a disorder where her blood would not clot. So, her family, afraid of, her health, want to make sure she was okay. They actually sent her to a special school in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, called the Linden Hall, where she spent the last 2 years of her high school education before moving on to the Blackstone College for Girls in Blackstone, Virginia. She was 21 years old in 1943 when February 13th of 1943, the Marine Corps said that they were looking for enlistees to join the reserves of the United States Marine Corps, and she actually had to get permission from her parents to enlist. But she did, and she did it 5 days after that call was released.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine enlisting, you know, well, I mean, I could imagine enlisting, right? Like we're trying to fight genocide in Nazi Germany and like,
It is an interesting concept to me, in all truth, because like I was saying before, born in 1922, so 21 years old, it's 19 or 20 years old, it's 1942.
yeah,
So just after, the Depression, then you have the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor.
right.
She Cambridge, Maryland, known for the school, obviously Cambridge, but like um it must have been interesting because after uh 1941, December 7, 1941, the Marines were already preparing counterattacks as well as like in the Air Force. They did the Doolittle raid. So I think that she'd be watching a lot of people from her community start to disappear. Maybe not be on the death records yet or anything like that, but I personally just can't imagine you're fighting. It seems like most people in those generations are really fighting for survival in some way, and her family is operating a women's clothing store in Cambridge, Maryland. I mean, the
Right.
humblest of backgrounds. And then this giant war breaks out, and there weren't women in the military at this time. If they were, I mean, they were mostly nurses, but like, the United States Marine Corps was the last service to allow it. They were very hesitant until they put out that call until February 13th. So the United States Marine Corps, it's the only service where you can go do your basic training and not have to do another basic training to go into any other service. So I think that should show the pride and the work and the dedication it takes to be a United States Marine. And she did it.
Yeah, she did it. Yeah, Bea Arthur, yeah, she joined the Marine Corps only, like we talked about, 5 days after enlistments for women were introduced. And she, um,
You believe she had to ask for permission from her parents at 21?
yeah, she had to ask for permission, which is, I guess, I mean, at that time, I guess you had to. I guess if you were like one of the first group of women joining the military, um, yeah, she did her basic training in
Her
March of
home,
March
homes.
of 1943, and was initially given an assignment as a typist at Marine Headquarters, Washington, D.C. Just after a few months, she put in a request as for a transfer, and in June 1943, she was accepted into the Motor Transport School at Camp Lejeune. With this training completed, she worked at a number of Marine bases on the East Coast before settling at Cherry Point, North Carolina, where Bernice also met her fellow Marine, who would then become her husband, Robert Allen Arthur, the future screenwriter. They married in Ithaca, New York, 1944. Bernice changed her name to Bernice Arthur after 30 months of service, during which she achieved the rank of staff sergeant, which is a E6. You know, we all enter usually as an E1 or E2, depending if you have any college credits. So she became E6 in just like 2 years, which is pretty amazing. And she was honorably discharged in September 1945.
She was
After,
also, she never went overseas. She never saw any combat. So I mean, the work that she was putting in to make that rank, is pretty, must have been pretty incredible.
yeah, absolutely. I'm sure she saw like a bunch of men like shipped out and never came back. You know.
Yeah, I think there's other stuff I read where she was, I guess, supervisors and people that knew her from that time said that she was very similar to what she was in regular life as well. She was very argumentative and opinionated, which there obviously 1940s America, there's most likely some sexism going on there. You know,
Yeah,
it is what it is, and obviously that's not right, but let's call history what it is, you know what I mean? So, you know, even with that though, I mean, just a E6 in 2 years. I mean, there's people out there that can start on E3 at year one and won't make E6 till 15 years. You know, like,
yeah,
I'm sure there's plenty out there, people out there who, you know, get that. So, incredible.
yeah. I mean, she was really progressive. Like
She was a trailblazer, really. I
she
mean,
was.
eventually there would be 20,000 women soldiers in the United States Marine Corps for World War II, and she was one of them. They had names like the Femarines or the Glamourines, which is my personal favorite.
Yeah,
But they were very highly respected, and uh, she uh, eventually decided to leave the military. There's a couple different reasons on why that came to be. But I mean, for whatever it was, she definitely became sort of one of the forerunners to help women and girls of America be able to have that career and be able to just really show that, you know, women and girls can perform in the United States military at the levels needed to win the mission.
absolutely. Man, what a terrific role model, if anything. Uh,
It makes it even more sad that she didn't say more. In my opinion, that she didn't say more about what she had done. And there's people that I read in the course of searching this video that said that it wouldn't have been like the Military Times did an interview about her, and they reported that despite how good she was at what she did, she denied her military career and something that is because a generational kind of perspective where she felt possibly that since she wasn't over there taking the bombs and the guns and everything like that, that it wasn't really the same kind of service, and she didn't want to take that away um, from somebody else. Um,
yeah, I mean, I could absolutely relate with that. Like, being in the Navy and, like we talked about last episode, choose your rate, choose your fate. I had a desk job on an aircraft carrier, And then when I came out to do, I almost felt a little guilty sometimes going to the VA and getting some services because I'm like, I never saw like hand-to-hand combat or any other things that I know other people have gone through. But I really had to be convinced, like by my therapist, like, no, you sacrificed your time for your for your, for your country. Like,
I think
you,
that's the one thing you definitely learn as you get older is the sacrifice doesn't necessarily just mean, taking a bullet for your country. It's can be a lot of loss that
yeah,
happens to you while you're in there too. Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I think anybody watching the show that's had to deal with the aftermath of military service. I know a guy, a veteran from in Tennessee. He was an Air Force vet as well. Uh, and when I ran into him, he was very nonchalant about it until he found out that I was in the same service, and like suddenly we became like best friends. And there, I've had that with quite a few different military people actually. Just like when they get a chance to kind of talk about it, I think a lot of things you don't really think about because you're young come up. And yeah, obviously, hey, if you need to get help, get help. It's there for a reason. Not, there's I myself, do that as well, and that's partially why we have this show. It's a show that everybody does things, and we all have our own reasons, but we're artists, and we have meaning and purpose, and people care.
yeah, and be it, Bea Arthur, she definitely had a lot of scrutiny. She really, I've done a lot of like listening to some YouTube clips and interviews with her, and like she really just wanted to be like this awesome female, beautiful actress, and like she was constantly turned down or just like rejected from roles because of her like bone structure and her height, her deeper voice, and then she just kept at it. I mean, I would imagine it was really hard to trudge. You're in just kind of like trudge through your field, and is trudge even a word? I gotta cut this out.
Yeah, well, I mean, also let's not forget too. I mean, not only is she a woman in the 40s, beautiful woman as well, if I may say.
Yeah,
Um, but like when you have to deal with that post-war mindset, again, like it sounds like it's just a battle for Bea Arthur her whole life in a lot
yeah,
of ways. I mean, even as far as her religious heritage, I mean, again, we're talking about not only a woman, but now we're talking about someone who believes in the Jewish faith in a time when it's rapidly persecuted all over the world.
mm,
And then she joins, a military that's also working to combat that type of that fascism and stuff like that. Wins that, and then starts, finding roles and jobs outside of the military, and still has these things to overcome.
yeah.
Like
These
it's
knees and
her.
like, yeah, it's crazy, man. Like,
And she's one of the it's interesting, and it's just kind of a theme throughout this whole episode really. um just how, like we saw in that first episode, she just wanted to fight for things that she thought was right. And as we mentioned as well, and she was very big on being an ally for the LGBTQ community.
absolutely.
Plus,
Yeah, I'd like to show you this. Like, just her personality type is like amazing. Like, I'd like to show you this clip from a role from Maude. Let me just pull this up really quick.
I deny everything. My cookies are just as tight as anybody's. Of course, I cannot speak for the judge here, but then again, why should I? I mean, I have never met this charlatan before. It was my neighbor, Dr. Arthur Harmon, who dragged him over here. I say there are no such things as flying saucers. At least I have never seen a flying saucer. And I want to make that perfectly clear. There are no flying saucers.
yeah, I'd say that pretty accurately represents the character and personality when I think of her, in her private time with family and stuff
Yeah,
like
plus
that.
she's like, I believe she's making fun of like a Nixon quote there.
Probably. I mean, she was.
I'm almost 100% sure. Oh yeah, and here's that clip from Family Guy that you were talking about.
This is how I found about Maude and B. Arthur being in that show.
Oh, look, it's one of those early Maude episodes with a really long opening credit sequence.
Lady Godiva was a freedom rider. She didn't care if the whole world looked. Joan of Arc with the Lord to guide her. The harness
What the hell?
had all going on. An Indian guy with lots of Indian pride. Indira Gandhi ran a whole big country. That isn't easy, even if you're a guy.
And then there's more.
Babe Zaharias was
Oh,
a
come
really
on.
good athlete, good at track and field and professional golf too.
And then there's more.
Amelia Earhart flew a lot of airplanes, except for that one time when she didn't come back. Cleopatra lived
And then
way
there's
out in
more.
the
Come on.
desert, but still found a way to keep herself looking fine. And then there's more.
Ah! That was an ordeal.
I won't play the whole thing, but that was hilarious.
Yeah, I love. It is funny though, because like it is like the real song where it's talk about like a bunch of high profile, you know, famous women. Yeah, like change the world.
Oh wait,
That was another thing that I had read, interestingly enough, was again, when we're talking about this person, we're talking about the lens of the history that they grew up or went through, and it's crazy. I mean, we did Jimi Hendrix, who was a black man, performing, in the South in the late 60s, but again, we have this human being who's coming out, ma- doing roles and shows that are talking about women's issues, gay issues, talking about rights and issues for the old and the feeble, AIDS, different kinds of medical situations and things. Just very a powerful character who, again, to me, just it seems like she just had to fight for every inch that she gained, but it was almost like a natural thing to her. And I always find it interesting how she kept a smile on her face, as you kind of see in that. I mean, I know that's acting, but at the same time,
yeah,
just a powerful personality, to say for sure.
very powerful and extremely just out there, like not given an F. You know what I mean? Like Golden,
That's
the Golden Girls, and like her role on Maud is just like really progressive. Like,
Well, I wonder as well. I don't know if you caught it more in your research or not, but like there also seems to be this love with New York City, like her whole life. I mean, she was attending a different acting school, the dramatic workshop, and then she went up to New York City and began going to school there instead, because she just found it much better for where she was trying to go at that time. And I haven't been to New York a few times myself. I know you living there. There is a certain buzz about that city and a realism that you just can't fake, I think. And I just always find it kind of interesting how I think sometimes where you're from, especially like from New York, they just have a certain ability to them to be leaders and uh, trendsetters.
yeah, I mean, you just get into the New York hustle because you can't. It's easy to fall to the wayside if you don't hustle here, you know. And by hustling, I mean these. She just like knew her craft. She knew. I listened to a portion of a interview with her where she um, went to be like a medical technician, and she was just like, I do not want to keep running urine samples like from people, you know, like I want to be an actor, actress, like, and be famous. And, you know, she did it. You know, I was just at a entrepreneurial panel for veterans, and there's statistics that say 45% of veterans become entrepreneurs. You know, like I'm one right now. I know you were talking about, doing your guitar teaching and guitar, I think like resale
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to run multiple different businesses.
yeah,
I was still having the courage to get my dream day job and stuff.
yeah. I mean, and she just pursued it like all of our other guests. They just pursued it. Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Cash, Chris Christopherson, and all the other vets that we're gonna talk about coming up on our show. Um,
Yeah, I think too what I was gonna say a little bit ago, but it kind of escaped me for a second, was again looking through that lens of history. A lot of people ask questions on why wasn't she more honest about her service? And as I said earlier, like there probably was a little bit of that generational mentality of like, well, I didn't really do anything too important. I was just doing what I had to do. But I also kind of wonder if some of the causes that she fought for at the time, she didn't want to associate herself with the military during those times because she was kind of fighting for things that maybe people that look at the military wouldn't accept it. Like maybe the causes might have been a little bit too liberal or progressive at that time for it to
well,
make a difference.
absolutely. And another thing that could have been going on in her head, which has gone through in my head before, is like you might not feel super stoked to be a veteran, depending on who was president at the time. You might feel like your country is something else because of a specific president at the time. And she went through some, trying presidents. I mean, being born in 1922, like,
Yeah, just such a wild revolution in time.
you know,
Really, I mean, just 1930 to 1980 alone, the amount of change in technology and social thinking. I mean, when B. Arthur was a child, her grandparents or people that she at least knew probably had memories of like the Civil War, like the American Civil War. Like that's pretty wild to think about in
I mean,
itself.
yeah, she's definitely gone through the stuff, with Nixon, you know, Reagan era, like,
I think that's what makes her such an interesting perspective as an artist and as a person and a veteran too. And it's why it's so good that we're talking about her. Is this is the first person I think that we've really talked about who really had some major challenges as they developed in life and were constantly kind of challenging that status quo to reach the highest heights that they could. I wish she would talk about more of that, but she was a very humble person from everything that I saw.
yeah, she was a very humble person and a very, she just wanted to keep, I believe, her private life to herself. And if you're an actor that reaches her prestige, I feel like that's, something you definitely want. And
Something very odd for today's celebrity culture, to say for sure.
yeah, and today, I mean, celebrities, you can't, everyone has a camera phone. So, like, at least back then when she was, you had to worry about just regular cameras snapping pictures of her. But now, if you're an actor or a famous person walking down the street, you got to be, anybody just pulls out a phone. I do it all the time. I try to take pictures or videos of famous people I see around here. Um, and yeah, she's won so many awards. She won a 1966 won the Tony Award for Best Featured Actress in a Musical for playing Vera Charles in Mamie. I believe that's how it's pronounced. She was in the so I didn't realize this. Maude was Edith's cousin on All in the Family, and I think was only on in one episode, and that spawned into the TV show Maude from 1972 to 78.
Yeah, that we were just having a conversation about something like that the other day, and I was kind of referring to that as well. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, yeah, she's won Emmys. She won Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series, 1977 for Maude and 1988 for Golden Girls. Um, yeah, she was uh, inducted into the Hall of Fame by her co-star Angela Lansbury. Um, I could show you a clip of that right now when she comes on stage. She's and she does a impersonation of I forget her name. Mae West.
Ah, heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Let's see.
Roll.
Rolling.
Oh, that was the most beautiful, longest. Oh, God. I love these things. They really find out how old you are. You know, and I am old. As a matter of fact, my formative years were spent doing imitations of Mae West, you know. Is that a pistol in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me?
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome. That's so funny.
Yeah, unlike a lot of the other guests that we've had on, she wasn't really notable for a lot of charity work as far as post-military career goes. But I mean, I personally think that if it wasn't for the military work that she did, and then a lot of the social justice work that she put forward during the rest of her life and using her celebrity, I think that, we wouldn't have a lot of the opportunities for young females to be in the military, or maybe even some of the more dangerous jobs in the world that we do. So I think she's definitely a trendsetter and a forerunner for opening the doors a lot. And obviously, she never said so, but I mean, I don't know how you could be a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps and not kind of take some of that stuff with you to really sort of combat uh, the evils in the world, if you will, whether that be sexism or some other kind of, you know, bygone trope of civilization.
Right.
Uh, but I mean, yeah, just what a stellar human being, and it's been a real honor to be able to just learn more about her, and hopefully, I hope everyone enjoyed, finding out more about her too, and will help spread the message.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed our guest, Bea Arthur. I'd just like to play you one of my favorite clips from Golden Girls. And talking about like her character on Golden Girls is really reminiscent of my grandmother. My grandmother was really outspoken, cursed a lot at her sons, family feuds. It was a fun time. And here's a clip of one of my favorite clips from Golden Girls.
I better not say anything till I've had my coffee. A slut and a moron. I'm sorry, it must be decaf.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Classic.
Yeah. Yeah, she was also, I didn't realize she's one of the voices on Futurama.
Oh, snap. I didn't know that either. She's a Amazon woman in the mood as she's a computer.
Oh, that's funny. That's cool.
That is funny. I don't know. That's the Amazonian episode where Death by Snoo Snoo.
Oh,
He's
cool.
the
I have to rewatch.
computer that runs the whole thing and falls in love with Bender at the end. That's cool. Would have never thought.
That's really cool. Yeah, so
Guess what, B. Arthur? I'm a staff sergeant too.
that's cool. You were E6?
No, I was it's a little bit different in the Air Force.
Okay.
E5 is staff, and then we go to technical sergeant at E6.
Oh, gotcha.
Marine Corps and Army, it's sergeant at E5, so three stripes, and then at E6 you make staff sergeant, which is three stripes and a thing underneath.
Gotcha. Well, I hope you all enjoyed our fourth episode featuring Bea Arthur. How I know her as Dorothy from Golden Girls, mainly. I had a really good time doing this episode. Yeah, we hope you have liked what you have seen today on Veterans at Rock. Once again, I am Sailor Scott, my co-host Zach Rabbit, is an Air Force veteran. And who's our next guest, Zach?
Our next guest is going to be Mr. James Jimmy Stewart, General.
General James Stewart. That's going to be on May 10th, and probably I would say on June 10th, we are going to have a live in-person veteran talking, who's also an artist. So we will mention who that is on our next episode.
Until then, I'm Zach Rabbit,
And I am Sailor Scott.
signing off.
Taps, taps, lights out.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
All right.
Taps, taps, lights out.
All right. Peace, everybody.